Okay, Ms. Perkins, thank you so much
Hi.
for allowing me to observe you. And so I want to go ahead and start off with this question. During the time that I observed you, what do you think went well?
Well, I think what went well was just the atmosphere. Like the kids were really respectful towards me, and it just was a joyful atmosphere.
Hmm. Definitely. I would definitely agree with that. It was. Um, so, getting into what I was observing you for, which was the specific on the 7 steps, it was number 4 using TPR, total physical response signals, and visuals and vocabulary strategies that support your objectives. So, um, is there in addition to a good atmosphere where the kids were joyful and it was respectful, they were respectful. I mean, is there anything you would tweak to enhance the implementation of TPR?
Um, I think I would have maybe done more agree disagree, or kind of have them um total physical response.
Mm-hmm.
I think I would have maybe tried to do a little bit more movement, I guess.
A little bit more movement. Okay. Okay. So tell me a little bit more about the agree and disagree. How would you implement that specifically?
I think like I would have had them I would have done more agree disagree,
Mm-hmm.
and asked them to, kind of do more like talking.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. So how specifically, how do you envision that looking?
Um I think I think now that you've like how you've asked it, when I had them, okay, turn and talk or whatever, I think I would have had them, okay, brought them back. But then when they say, okay, do you agree, disagree, when they have their thumbs up, thumbs down, okay, if you uh, agree, I want you to go to this table. If you disagree, I want you to go to this table, and get them to move.
Oh, that's good. I really like that idea. I like that. So that could be something to think about that you try next time, just to get the movement involved. And then would you possibly have a further discussion from there on their agreeing, like why do you agree and why do you disagree?
Yes, I think I would have had more of like a further discussion
Okay,
and let them talk longer.
for sure, no doubt. So that was, I liked when I wrote down when you like said for the students to go ahead and turn and talk. I like that you wrote a sentence stem on the board because that helps. Not only, I mean, it helps all students really be able to go in a direction with their thoughts. So I like that you gave them that sentence stem. Would you be interested in hearing another way to tweak the way of the TPR? Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
So here's what I envisioned when you prompted them to go ahead and give a thumbs up if you understand, give a side thumb if you kind of are in the middle, and then give a thumbs down if you don't understand. So I know that we saw some students with their side thumb here, and what I would say is I would say, okay, if you have your thumbs up and you fully understand, I want you to explain it so that all of our friends can understand what the instructions are. So then you can invite the students to go ahead and talk more. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's good.
That's okay.
That's really
Awesome.
good.
And then from there, you can ask the friends who had their side thumb. You can ask them, okay, can you repeat what the friend just said that explained it? You know.
Mm.
So then they're not only getting that listening skill in, but then they're having to basically regurgitate the language in their own way. Yeah. How do you feel about that?
No, I really like that because
Cool.
I know, like, I just, I've always just struggled with like getting the kids to like communicate a lot,
Mm-hmm.
or like I read the different things like these books, or like the research, but how you read it and then how you like articulate it in your lesson, is they don't really say stuff like that. They just say like you can have the thumbs up and down. So then you just think concretely, okay, but they don't really teach you how to like make it more student led.
Right. So then that, I think that would really work out well for you, especially because it's not really changing anything about your great foundation that you already have. It's just kind of taking it up a notch or giving them a little bit of differentiation. So that would be something cool to think about the next time you do that prompting, thumbs up, side, sound thumb, or thumbs down. Okay, awesome. So, is there anything you would tweak to enhance the implementation of the visuals and vocabulary strategies? So, the evidence I wrote here was that you had your anchor chart for equivalent fractions, where it had the fractions and they were labeled as number lines. Basically, they had tick marks, and you shaded in, 1/2. And then the kids were able to explain, okay, if you shade all the way to 2/4, that lines up with 1/2. So that means they're equivalent, right? So, is there anything you would tweak in that section?
Mm, so I know I had the anchor chart, I had the manipulatives, but I think like, and I was kind of like, oh, I think I would have because I have a really gorgeous word wall. Oh my goodness,
Yes.
it's cool. I know you saw it,
Yes.
and it's game day, and it's yellow, and it's gorgeous. I think I would have really, when I talked about, okay, what's the numerator, what's the denominator, I would have had that little girl go over to the word wall,
Mm-hmm.
use a pointer, talk about numerator, denominator, come back. And then I think I would have had like, they have the anchor chart up there, but then I think I would have made them have a picture of a number line where they're shading in with me. And I think like that would have just been like really amazing. And yeah, the word wall, I would have done that, have the number line, and then yeah, that's all I could think in my head right now
Mm-hmm.
and stuff besides the manipulatives. I had those, but I think that would have just been powerful.
Mm-hmm. For sure. And yes, I know exactly which moment you're talking about when it was you pulled out the popsicle stick, and you called on her and she said, nominator was the vocabulary word for the top number instead of numerator. So she knew it started with an N at least, but she was mixing up numerator and denominator, right? So I agree with you. I think that would have been really powerful. Maybe you could have, of course, allowed her to say the incorrect word and say, "You're almost there. Let's go try to find it on the word wall." So that's a good way to for you to segue into that, right? Okay, awesome. And so I'm going to go ahead and share because at the bottom of the form, I wrote a glow, and I already shared your grow with you, which is awesome. So the glow was that the popsicle sticks were a great strategy to be sure that students took responsibility for their learning because the sticks don't lie, right? And when students went to explain, when they were called on from the popsicle stick and they went to the board to explain using the anchor chart, they were very detailed and the visual enhanced their understanding. So that was very good. And I wanted to ask you, how do you get your students comfortable with answering questions at the evaluating and creating level?
Mm. I think what I do is like besides like the sentence stems and stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
um, like I have them working in like groups.
Mm-hmm.
So I have them in like groups or stations where I make their stations
Mm-hmm.
and I make them, like, do you know versatiles?
Mm-hmm.
The math versatiles?
Mm-hmm.
So most people they just let them use the versatiles, put it in, and that's it, and use a whiteboard. But I make my students, they have to write in their notebook, and if it was 36 divided by some number equals 6,
Mm-hmm.
I make them create a fact family, and then I make them write all the equations for it, and then I make them create their own word problem. But I have them working together, so then they kind of get used to getting to that level. So I try to always, whatever the work is, I try to push them to the next level. Or if it was like today, I had them do a lot of manipulatives, but I have like where they have to not only answer the question,
Mm-hmm.
where they put the number in there, but then I make them explain their reasoning.
Mm-hmm.
So then they're used to that, where they're starting to like having to create things on their own
Mm-hmm.
and stuff. Yeah.
That's good. That's really good. And so I want to go ahead and encourage you to keep doing those things because it definitely showed in the way they answered questions, you know. And so even though we only focused on two of these 7 steps, the cool thing about it was because I had this form with all the steps on here, I was also able to have evidence for the other 7 steps as well. So one of them I had evidence for was having students speak in complete sentences. Students were speaking in complete sentences for their explanation. So that ties into all the work you've been doing. That's when they answer the question, they knew it was supposed to be complete sentence. When sometimes you'll hear teachers have to prompt students, okay, instead of that one word answer, give me a complete sentence. They just naturally did it, which was awesome. So I want to praise you for that. And then, of course, the randomizing and rotating when calling on students, that was the evidence of that was used by the popsicle sticks as well. Um, and then the giving the sentence stem for the turn and talk was the evidence of step number 6, having students participate in structured conversation. So even though we only focus on 2, I got to see you, I got to see in action 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 of these just in 10 minutes, which was pretty amazing. So I want to say, give yourself a hand clap because that's awesome. Good job.
And
So,
using this book.
yes. Yeah. So have you that book that has you really gotten some good takeaways from that book is what I'm hearing. Yeah.
It's been very helpful for me because, like I said, people tell you the steps, but when they start going over the steps, and I ask, well, can I have a book? But then the book, it kind of gives you examples, and so I try to, because I know I struggle with my communication,
Mm-hmm.
like communicating where the students can understand and stuff. So I knew, like, I just took the book, and it's a short read, so I try to highlight different things from each step, and I've been practicing with the kids and showing them every day so that I can get better, because
Mm-hmm.
it is that communication piece is pretty hard for me.
Yeah, but
But
what's
I
yeah, no, but what's awesome is that's basically an area where you can be like growing or always be growing. And so what's awesome is you're reflecting on that and you're seeking ways to grow, right? So that's awesome. Instead of being like, oh well, whatever, I don't know. So that's awesome for taking that initiative there. Okay, and I want to also because I did only get to see 10 minutes, and I saw them doing it was basically during your I do, and then your where you were modeling and having the students participate, and then you went into the we do where they were using manipulatives, and so I want to ask you just in detail what were some strategies that you expected them to show on their work.
for the we do with those manipulatives,
Or yeah, sorry, I
or
should be
the
specific on the you do. So when they go to their independent practice, like what was the strategy you expected them to show?
so I really expected for them to shade in on the number lines. There's multiple number lines
Mm-hmm.
that are on the paper. So I wanted them to do shading. So if it said 2/3 equals 4/8, I needed them to shade starting with 0 to 4/8 so they could see, okay, is that equivalent or not equivalent? And then if it was a bar, not or the bar models, I needed them to see the shading too as well. So
Mm-hmm.
I try to take it from the, first I'm modeling, and then I try to take it from the concrete
Mm-hmm.
pictorial, and then to the abstract, and then we'll kind of like, I guess it kind of stays in the pictorial, and I put air quotes because for third grade the standard, they're always going to have a picture for this, they're always going to have some type of number line, they're always going to have some type of picture. So, it wouldn't have been aligned if I put just is 2/3 equal to 4/8, because that's not the standard. But I didn't put that for today,
Mm-hmm.
but I do for like my higher students. I'll put like I'll put that on there, but I'll put an extension. So just in case like someone sees it, because
Mhm.
People are really big on things being aligned. And I'm like, no, 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 I can do this if I put it as an extension.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
I think you can get away with it that way a little bit.
Yeah. Well, and
Because I
that's
mean, if
because
some
then
kids,
yeah, go ahead.
I was saying some kids, they're like Daniel, he's at like a fourth grade level.
Mhm.
So I think, like for him, he can do the picture, but I think if I can push him to that level, but I just make sure to put extension because I always get so nervous because I'm like, well, they need to, someone comes in and they're like, well, why is he doing this? Not really lined. But if I put, no, 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 it's an extension.
Yeah.
It's an extension. It doesn't go off the teak.
Yeah. No, and that's good because as long as you know he's mastered the grade level skill, then you can give him an extension on that, and it's technically still aligned. And you're so basically you're making that differentiation piece happen. You know. Okay. All right. So let's backtrack, and I'm gonna ask you: do you remember what you're gonna tweak or try to tweak next time with this strategy?
So when the kid says, or if the kid goes like this, and then
Mhm.
I ask him, well, did you understand? He's like, no, I don't really understand. Then I think you were saying that I could either, okay, you can call on someone and ask that does understand, put your thumbs back up, and then that kid can explain it, and then it's okay now, and then I could say, I'm just going to create a name, Bobby. Now explain what do you need to
Mhm.
do now that Sheldon or whatever answered it, and
Mhm.
that way it makes it more of like the students are leaning on the students instead of me just saying, okay, repeating it. Just let the students say it.
Yes. Perfect. That's exactly what it was. So good job. Okay, Miss Perkins. So in regards to your feedback, do you have any questions?
I do. So I know it wasn't what you were observing, but where it says it was step 7.
Mm-hmm.
Have students participate in structured reading and writing activities.
Mm-hmm.
And since I do math, um, I had an idea that I was thinking about. So there's this book called Fraction Action,
Okay. Yeah.
and you know, because it's math, and people come in and observe, if they're reading this book and we're doing fractions, would that count as a structured reading activity? Or should I have them read the book and then, taking from like an excerpt, have them create a problem?
Mm-hmm. That's a good question. So, because you're thinking about how you'll be observed in the future, so that's good. I think what it would do, what you could do, is create an entire lesson from the I do to the we do to the you do and the DOL. Um, take so the I do, you could read it aloud to the students, and then the we do, you could have questions that from the book, like comprehension questions that involve the students having to write and talk to each other. And so the book, you whatever is in the book, you could make sure that your questions are not just aligned to what the book is saying, and so that they're aligned with the comprehension piece, but also connected to how does this relate to equivalent fractions, how does this relate to what we're learning about, like develop questions that not only connected to the comprehension of the book but the content piece as well. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then on your you do, tell me a little bit about the book because I've never read it. So does it have different fractions in there?
Yeah. So fraction action, it has it talks about where it's doing with the pictorials, the
Okay.
circles, halves. Then it has like real life objects where it talks about, a cookie being broken into fourths, or the wallets of your like a wallet is divided into three. Then
Mm-hmm.
it gives the kids a problem, and so it just is all about fractions in action in your life,
Mm-hmm.
going from
Oh,
school into
to real world. Yeah.
life.
Yeah, that's definitely a standard that we could use a lot more practice on in general, like as a campus. in terms of connecting the math content to the real world, you know? So I
Mhm.
think that's a great idea. And in your UDO and DOL, you could again implement that piece of where you have either reading multiple choice questions or reading short answer questions where they have to write, and then you create a math problem from the book and you use like maybe the character's name, and to where it's still getting in that standard of the equivalent fractions. That makes sense.
Mm. Mhm. Yeah.
Cool. And mainly in math, because I definitely asked this question too. I was like, how when we make this form, how are we going to make sure that it works for all teachers, not just reading and writing teachers, right? So the answer I got was definitely they can either explain a process in problem solving. So that's also something to think about. Have them explain or have them walk through the steps of what they're doing, you know, if it's a multi-step problem, or if it's, you know, 2 by 1 digit multiplication that I see back there, have them explain what they would do on their steps. Yeah.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
that's something additional you could think about as well.
Perfect. Yeah, that makes me excited because the kids took from the complete sentences.
Uh-huh.
Now, when they're doing their word problems or their math problems, the little girl, she will explain out
Yeah.
after she shows her math work. She'll explain out. I can use quest and I can multiply and divide this number to get to this number, and she just started doing it.
Yay. That's amazing. That's so good. I'm so happy to hear that. But okay, do you have any other questions for me?
Mm-mm.
All right. I want to say thank you so much for your time and looking forward to the next one.
Yes, I'm excited. You've helped me so much.
Good. Thank you. All right. See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.